This is CPM Precalculus, Chapter 2, number 28. Factor each expression. Okay, this is number 228. Factor each expression. So A, we're given 2x squared plus 14x minus 16. Okay, so when we're asked to factor, we want to go ahead and basically we want to pull out like terms or common things that we can divide out. So we're looking for things like the greatest common factor. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. So here in the first term we have 2x squared. So I'm going to break that down into what it is, and by doing that I'm going to see that's equal to 2 times x, right? This term is equal to that. 14x is equal to, so plus, I can divide 14 by 2, so that's going to be 2 times 7 times x, right? That's just basically looking at what are the factors of 14, and then minus what are the factors of 16? Well, 2 times 8, but 8 is going to be 2 times 4, and then 4 is going to be 2 times 2. So 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16. So 16 is the same as 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. Okay, so we kind of look at all the factors of each term, and then we see, well, what is there in common? Because we want to take out the greatest common factor. So in the first term, right, I see a 2, and a 2 in all three terms. And I see an x here, an x here, but not an x here. So I can't take that out. So I'm going to start off by just taking the 2 out, okay? So when I take it out, I'm factoring it out. What am I left with here? I'm left with just the x and the x, so I'm left with x squared. What am I left with here? I'm left with plus 7 times x, which is 7x. And I'm left with here minus 2 times 2 times 2 is 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, minus 8. So that's just factoring the 2 out, okay? Now I'm left with this quadratic, right? And I want to factor this. And how do I do it? Well, I can use the x method, right? I think that's what it's called. And here I want to look for two terms that equal to 7 when I add them. I'm getting the 7 from here. And equal to 8 from here, right? 8 when I multiply them, okay? And it's actually going to be negative 8 because that's minus, all right? So I can even make this a plus minus there, so I know it's a negative 8. So I want to get two terms that add to get to 7 and multiply to get to negative 8. Okay? All right. So what two terms do that? I guess I can think of only one set, because if I want to see what terms multiply to get to negative 8, well, 2 times 4, right? 2 times negative 4 gives me negative 8, but if I add those, we do not get 7. 1 times 8, well, yes, if I multiply negative 1 times positive 8, I get negative 8 here. If I add these two, I get positive 7. Okay, so that's going to allow me to factor this thing in parentheses, right, to be x, and then I minus 1, so it's the x method, times x again, and this time I add 8. Okay, and it would have been add a negative 1, you could say. Okay, because I'm just adding the negative 1 and adding the 8. Okay, and then I still need to bring down the 2. So factoring this in part A gives me 2 times x plus negative 1 times x plus 8. Okay? And can I factor these anymore? No. So once I cannot factor anymore, I'm done. Okay? So let's do the same thing for part B. First, I'm going to go ahead and factor each term separately. So 2x cubed is just 2 times x times x times x, right? Minus 128 is going to be 2 times 64, which is 2 times 32, which is 2 times 16, which is 2 times 8, which is 2 times 4, which is 2 times 2 times x. Okay? So you can go ahead and check this. 2 times 2, how many 2's is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I could go on my calculator, turn it on, and say 2 to the power of 7, right? And I get 128. So that is correct. I'm basically finding all the factors of 128. Then I look here and I see, well, both of these terms have a 2. Both of these terms have an x. So 2 and x, right? So I could take out 2 and x. What I'm left with then is x times x, which is x squared, and 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. Just 6 2's, which is, and I still have subtract, so it's minus 64. Okay? So this is what happens first of all. And then I go ahead and I look at this quadratic here. Okay? And what I notice is that this is equal to, so let me rewrite it. This is equal to x squared minus, well, what's the square root of 64? 8 squared, right? So I'm just rewriting that 64 is 8 squared. And now I can see that this right here is the difference of 2 squares. Difference of 2 squares, right? So then that allows me to basically factor the difference of 2 squares using the method of, it's going to be x plus 8 times x minus 8, right? Because I'm taking what is squared here, adding it to what is squared here, and then taking what is squared here and subtracting it from what is squared there. That's the difference of 2 squares. Okay? So now I have factored this, and can I factor any of these more? Can I factor 2 more? No. X more? No. X plus 8 more? No. X minus 8 more? No. So I'm done. Okay, so I boxed my answer, and this is factoring of what we had in part B. Okay, so this ends CPM Precalculus Chapter 2, number 28.